14th. It's early on the date of January 14th, and we are holding right now in the midst of a very active weather pattern. A lot of different ingredients are coming together to produce a major winter storm over a very large part of the country. A very impactful storm system is already under play in the upper Midwest and North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and into the Iowa area. Snow has already moved into the North Dakota area, and snowfall accumulations of several inches expected over there. Snowfall accumulations will drop when you get into the Minnesota area just east of the Mississippi River. Snowfall accumulations drop to merely an inch. That's because of the very dry air that's in place due to a strong Arctic high-pressure system situated just north of the Great Lakes. This high-pressure system is actually going to be responsible for this low pressure in the Canada area, which is dropping south, to take a very interesting track, just a little bit different than usual. It's going to be dropping due south. Some say moving slightly southeast, but pretty much just dropping completely south from Canada, going all the way down into the Texas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas area. And then it will be moving east to the Carolina area, and then we'll be moving back up north, moving east to around the South Carolina area, then moving right back up north. It's also going to be taking a not direct north, a little bit northeast, but it will be moving a little bit further west than usual, further west than what climatology would support for the East Coast, a little bit further west than the normal nor'easters. Therefore, the heavy snow will be brought to more of the western locations in the Northeast, places like in western New York, northern and western New York, those places up there, well over a foot of snow for those locations. Some of the models even show 20, 22 inches of snow, 23 inches of snow. It's really going way up over there. Anywhere from 15 to 25 inches of snow is a possibility for those areas. AccuWeather max of 40 inches, that's for the East Coast. Let's go back and talk a little bit more about this low pressure system here in the Midwest. The high pressure system, which will be eventually strengthening and moving into Vermont by Sunday morning. Powerful high pressure, bringing wind chill warnings, and we have an extreme cold warning in effect for Thunder Bay in Canada, with wind chills going to 40 below zero. We have wind chill warnings up in the Northeast in New England, where wind chills also will be going down to 40 below zero in some locations. I saw one area 45 degrees below zero. Unbelievable cold. We have temperatures in the upper Midwest, which are also dropping to bitterly cold levels, but not for Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska will be getting several inches of snow, maybe 3 or 4 inches of snow, but that's not where the real cold air is going to be. Temperatures mainly in the 30s for over there. It's really Minneapolis, Minnesota, areas around there. Temperatures are going to be very cold, temperatures in the teens, but then at night we have temperatures dropping below zero. In fact, 20 below zero for the actual temperatures in the northern parts of the state. We have a piece of energy that's come onto the Washington, Oregon coast area by the Northwest Pacific. Another piece of energy over in Western Canada. Those two pieces of energy are going to be colliding over in the Central Plains. We also have that system dropping south out of Canada into the Central Plains. It moves down into the Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas area, and that's where a surface low is going to be developing. That surface low is going to deepen rapidly. It's going to go through rapid intensification as it moves east, Shabbos and Motzei Shabbos, and then there's another area of low pressure. This is called a Miller B scenario. The nor'easters that develop from Miller B scenarios consists of low pressure systems which generally move through the Ohio Valley. This one's going to be moving through the Tennessee Valley. And then there's a secondary area of low pressure, which I did not think this was going to happen, but we have a secondary area of low pressure which will be developing off the South Carolina coast, and then the energy from the more intense low pressure, the energy from that system then gets transferred to the low pressure system off the South Carolina coast. There's reason to believe that the low pressure system off the Carolinas is going to be, it's going to move a little bit slow there, but then will be moving quickly up the coast and will go through another rapid intensification. So the first system goes through rapid intensification, then the energy gets transferred to the South Carolina low pressure system, and that one goes up the coast, goes through rapid intensification again, possibly even a bombogenesis. That is possible. There's a general clause over here, and that is general rule, which is made by the meteorologist on the podcast of Weather Insider for AccuWeather, that whenever the barometric pressure is 29.2 or lower, as a general rule for the East Coast, you will see more than a foot of snow. So this storm system is expected to intensify to 29.1 by the time it hits the New England area. So there's very good reason to forecast more than a foot of snow for some areas up there. And then since the bullseye seems to be reaching areas very close to the Great Lakes, the amount of snow is actually going to be even higher than what would be expected just from the storm system itself, as lake enhancement and the lake effect snow gets put into these snowfall accumulations as well. That's why we see some of the models forecasting 20 inches, perhaps even more, for areas up in northern New York and western New York State, and then further north from there. We have snowfall accumulations expected to be between 6 and 12 inches for the Iowa area, 3 to 6 inches for St. Louis, Missouri, 2 to 5 inches, says the National Weather Service, for the St. Louis area, and then higher amounts to the north of to the west of the St. Louis area. 2 to 4 inches expected for Kansas City, Missouri. Memphis, Tennessee, some experts believe 3 to 6 inches for Memphis, Tennessee. We also have snow that will be affecting the Ohio area. Now, here's something which is something I noticed, which I think is amazing. And, we have the snow coming in from North Dakota, the low pressure system. It's coming really from Canada, dropping south, will be affecting Iowa for tomorrow. That's 6 to 12 inches. Some counties in central Iowa tend to just do this mysterious stuff. They have a 10 to 20 hour precipitation event with the snow. So 15 or 16 inches will not be that hard to pull off for areas in Iowa. I'm just going to mention very quickly something very unique about this low pressure system is that it has a half of inch of water equivalent to work with. Usually these Alberta Clipper type systems have very little. They're moisture starved system. So this one has the amount of moisture that a lot of times you would see with a panhandle hook, something that collides with Gulf moisture. It's not so uncommon to see a half an inch with those systems. And when you're dealing with a 10 to 1 snow to water ratio, that would be around 5 inches of snow. This situation, I don't know if the moisture is coming from the Gulf or not. It could be a lot of it's coming from the Pacific. It would not surprise me if a lot of it's coming from the Pacific. And, if you have a half an inch and with the very cold air, you have a very powdery snow, you're going to get a snow-to-water ratio a lot more than 10 to 1. It could be 15 to 1, 20 to 1. So you're looking at a 10-inch snowstorm with that type of moisture within the system already. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's there. So that's why we have such high snow amounts for places in Iowa of 6 to 12 inches. The low pressure system seems like it will be weakening a little bit as it moves south. Now let's go back and talk about that amazing thing that I noticed, is that you have in St. Louis, Missouri, you have, we have snow that's going to be moving in for tomorrow, 3 to 6 inches. Now, usually, if you have snow, in St. Louis on a Friday, so things generally move from west to east. So Cincinnati, when is the snow going to hit Cincinnati? So Friday night, Shabbos morning, something like that. But in this case, the snow will not be making it to Cincinnati until Sunday afternoon, and that's because this storm is making a U. This storm, St. Louis is getting the snow as the low pressure system moves south, dropping out of Canada, moving south all the way down. At some point, it's going to be focused on the Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana border, as that's where the low pressure system is headed to. So on the way down south, the St. Louis area gets 3 to 6, let's call it 2 to 6, and then that low pressure system moves to the east. Ohio might get some snow at the northern edge of this low pressure system, and also parts of Ohio will be getting, especially Cleveland and areas in eastern Ohio, will be getting wraparound moisture as the storm system moves up the coast. That might not be happening until Sunday night, maybe even Monday, but parts of Ohio, Cincinnati might be getting snow on Sunday. There will be areas in Ohio that will be getting maybe 5 to 8 inches of snow from the system. It's not the peak intensity. It's not the bullseye of the storm, but Ohio could get hit pretty significant, although it might only be a very narrow strip that gets hit within Ohio with this significant snow. So it's also pretty significant to mention that Chicago doesn't seem, for a while at least, it did not seem like Chicago is going to really be getting anything, at least nothing directly related to the storm. It seemed like those northeast winds would develop in Chicago in response to this low pressure system moving by, and that would bring some lake moisture into the area with maybe some lake effect snow. In recent runs, it does look like, however, that the northern and eastern edge of the precipitation associated with this low pressure system is expanding, and it might actually hit Chicago to some extent. Still, forecasts call for maybe up to an inch or so, but we'll see what happens over here. We have a little bit of some lake effect along with possibly a direct snow which is directly associated with the system. That's possible. A little bit of that might be hitting the Chicago area. But in general, it's just interesting how Chicago is really missing it. It's going, southern Illinois might be getting it. Now, the St. Louis National Weather Service has pointed out that there was some concern yesterday that maybe even today, that this low pressure system, which is bringing again 2 to 6 inches of snow for the St. Louis area tomorrow, heavy snow, there was some concern that heavy snow might hit the St. Louis area Saturday night and Sunday. Now, it's really from the same low pressure system. So why is the same low pressure system going to be bringing this heavy snow Saturday night and Sunday? What's it's going to be hitting tomorrow? So again, it's the same story. There's the low pressure system from Canada going down south. That brings snow into the St. Louis area, and then when the storm, it goes into the deep south, and as it heads east-northeast, then it could move back into the southeast part of Missouri. But the storm is taking a southern and more eastern track in regards to the way it affects Missouri. In regards to the way it's going to be affecting the East Coast, I cannot say it's going to be taking a more eastern track. It's not doing that right now. It's still forecast to go along a little bit to the west of the Interstate 95. So areas along Interstate 95 into the east may have the precipitation start off as snow Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. The big cities, 1 to 3 inches, as forecasted: Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, 1 to 3 inches. Areas to the north and west of that, north of that, 3 to 6 inches, and then we get to 6 to 12, and then right along the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, we'll likely be getting 12 to 18 inches of snow, and areas with lake enhancement will be getting more than that, as we've mentioned before. Some big players over here in terms of coastal flooding that will be taking place, especially high tide Monday morning along the Atlantic coast. The full moon is on Monday. That's going to increase the coastal flooding. That is a variable here. The full moon, is that Tu B'Shvat? Tu B'Shvat? It's Monday. You know, there's been a lot of storms that have developed in Tu B'Shvat. Okay, now, another very interesting thing, and this is, we pointed out one real interesting principle over here, that whenever the barometric pressure is 29.2 or lower, you could expect more than a foot of snow, at least as far as the East Coast is concerned. Another very interesting thing, if you want to know how far north is this storm going to go on the East Coast, so this is a little bit spooky to me, but whatever latitude the low pressure system came in on the Pacific Ocean, it came in on Washington, Oregon. Whatever latitude it came in, it's going to leave the country on that same latitude. This was an observation made by a meteorologist that worked with the meteorologist that is that makes the podcast Weather Insider and AccuWeather. This was maybe back in 1990 already. This observation that whatever latitude it came in, that's the latitude it's going to leave. So it's going to be leaving a little bit north of Boston. So it is going to be on that coast. It's going to be going up the coast. It's not going to be pulling out to sea by the mid-Atlantic area or something like that. It will be moving up the coast. Some say that the heaviest snow might be in western Maine. I think parts of New York, though, as well, will be getting hit with some heavy snow. A very significant part of this is going to be the ice storm that is expected to develop in the parts of Virginia, Georgia, and the parts of the Carolinas. That may be the most dangerous part of this storm, especially because of the power outages that happen during ice storms. A half an inch of ice is possible in many of those locations. Some areas may get up to an inch of ice. We also have a severe storm threat, but it's not really that bad. The main threat will be in the western panhandle of Florida, and the damaging winds will be the main concern. There could be a few weak tornadoes as well. There also could be possibly some thunderstorms in the Long Island area. I don't really think so much like that's going to be happening, but it could be. Sometime between Sunday and Monday, a warm nose of warm air may hit that area, and there could be a chance for thunderstorms. Super windy conditions at several time periods over this weekend. Areas like in Nantucket and places like that, Rhode Island area, we have 70 mile per hour wind gusts expected. Also, whiteout conditions are possible. Even for the snow, there's another little bit of snow coming by tomorrow evening, producing 1 to 3 inches of snow for the Nantucket area, parts of Rhode Island as well. We have wind chill warnings in effect for Providence, Rhode Island for tomorrow night, as wind chills drop again to 15 below zero, possibly even colder. And just bitterly cold Arctic air moves in. There'll be a little bit of a reinforcing shot of Arctic air again, Motzei Shabbos for the East Coast. This is going to put very dry, cold air in place, and that's why the first part of the storm will be snow. Now, for Atlanta, Georgia also, there's what to talk about, as there's a wedge of really cold air, and it's very much dependent on the strength of the Arctic high, which will be reaching Vermont on Sunday. But if that should go a little bit further south, the storm goes further south, the cold air goes further south, and we see snow or ice also goes a little bit further south. That increases those chances over there. Snow flurries expected in Louisiana. The significant snow line will be along the Tennessee and Mississippi border at this point. It's pretty far south. No snow accumulation expected for the Louisiana area, but there could be some thunderstorms, very slight chance that it would be severe. In general, we're going to see pretty dry conditions for New Orleans, Louisiana. The dew points are not going to start to go up until Shabbos morning. Dew points may actually go into the low 60s by Shabbos late morning. Everyone, I wish you a good night for the rest of the night, and have a wonderful Guten Erev Shabbos Kodesh. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Enjoy this exciting weather. I know the people on the East Coast, but those in the big cities, many are going to be very disappointed. But we have the people further west, they're going to be very excited. And the southern cities, those snow lovers of the southern cities, you don't get this all the time. So this is a super exciting event for you guys. And I think in central Iowa, there's going to be more than what is currently forecasted. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone enjoyed. Have a good night. Wonderful.